Hi everyone! Today's hair was inspired by that beautiful braid wheel bun on Emilia Clarke in the new Season 7 Game of Thrones promo. I'm not going to use any extensions in this version, and so I'll be taking some liberties with the design. So I think I'm going to have to put forth a disclaimer and say that this is more inspired than screen accurate, and when I can, I'll let you know what's different and where. As you can see, I started on clean straight hair with a middle parting. The Dany wig has an off-centered part, but I'm making this change so that I'll have an even amount on both sides to work with. I also went ahead and made 2 vertical partings from crown to right behind the ear. To pump up the volume in my fine hair, I've chosen to use my texturizing iron, which is basically just a micro crimper. This is also different from the Dany wig, but I felt that without this extra help, my braids wouldn't be nearly thick or significant enough in the final pinup. Instead of starting at the scalp though, I've chosen to crimp everything about 3 or 4 inches below the roots. That way I could still maintain the illusion of smooth hair, at least around my face. And when that was finished, I began to make the 6 braids at the front. Working on the left first, I divided the horizontal panel into 2 new and even sections. I always work from the bottom up, so I've turned my attention to the piece in the back. This is a very simple Dutch braid. There's really not enough hair to do more than 2 or 3 stitches, and that's okay. I'd also like to point out that I'm angling my hands downwards and slightly towards the back of my head. As always, I'll link my Braidtionary video in the description in case you need further assistance. The next pair of braids are the ones at the very top of the head. These are actually really simple in that all they are 3-strand braids. To make this a little easier on myself, I actually decided to turn them into a combination braid, meaning I chose to blend the 6 strands from each into 3 new ones, which of course brings them into a solitary braid down the back of my head. If you'd rather not do that, then don't. It'll just mean that you'll have one more braid than me to wrap around your bun at the very end, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The following set are the Dutch braids along the side of the head. I chose to make mine a little bit more centered and closer to the parietal ridge. This too is a detail that varies from the wig. These braids rest below the temple on the actress and they move backwards until they intersect with the bottom of the updo. I'm changing this too because I'm leading my braids upwards to the top of my head. Once all that loose hair is secured in, I'll make 2 or 3 more stitches so that it'll extend past the braid behind it. And then it'll be used to make a lace braid, which is basically just a technique in which you add hair into only one side. In this demo, that side will be the strand on the top, and the additional hair is coming from the crown. In my opinion, this is definitely an intermediate pattern, and if you struggle with it, that's okay. Perhaps instead you can choose just to make a few free hanging braids. Just remember that if I can do it, so can you. The only other real advice I can give is to move slowly if you have to, and to angle your hands to the side. This will direct the braid accordingly. It gets carried across the round of the head and stops short before the temple. And if you're wondering why I've deviated from the original look, it's simple. The up style is incredibly beautiful, but for those of us with normal living hair, it's not very realistic. Braids taper as they near the ends, and not a one on the wig does this. They're all incredibly plump and balanced even at their points of origin, not to mention the fullness of the loose hair at the nape of the actress's neck. I had to forego leaving pieces around my face because I needed everything on my head just to build something with a quarter of that density. But that's okay, I really don't like having stuff hanging in my eyes anyway. The second Dutch is done in the exact same way, at least in the beginning. I don't know if you can see this detail clearly, but I've lifted the one that I just made so that I can extend the second below and underneath it. Again, this morphs into a lace braid. I'm still working with the top strand and utilizing the loose hair at the crown. Basically, I'm using these braids to form the roundness that I need for the top of my bun wheel, since I don't have miles of additional hair at my disposal. Once that was all dealt with, I had one more section and 2 more braids to make, but these were really easy. As you can see, I made a small horizontal parting below all my lacework and split it into 2. Again, I thought it might be beneficial to use the texture iron here just to spruce them up a bit. And the pattern is pretty easy. The half on the left is braided to the right, and the half on the right is made towards the left. When you've finished, they should sort of look like they've met in the middle. The only other thing left before tying it all up is to curl. I've chosen a thin tapered wand and I'm using it on the entire bottom half of hair. Obviously, this is another step you can forego if you want to. I bet it would look just as interesting if you wore this straight. I also used one of those topsy-tail tools to pull my combination braid under and through the lace braids at my crown. I started my pinning with the last 2 braids that I made. Obviously it's a rounded shape, so you'll need to curve the hair and pin it in that sort of a direction. It's actually not that hard to do, but it does take a few minutes to create, and that's because you may need to stop and check in the mirror that it's centered and even. A few years ago I made a video called the Grecian Braid Wheel, and in that version I used all of my hair, so there wasn't anything left over on my shoulders. At the time I wasn't super practiced with editing my videos, but I still think that it's a relevant style, so I'll link that too in case you'd like to see. Basically it's the same concept here in that all these small braids are wound around each other like a wheel on a bike. And the 2 Dutch braids, the first in the set of 6 that I made in the front, get pulled back and tied together below the bun. I also unraveled the ends of those braids so that I could curl them too, and then just because I used a piece of blue ribbon and double-sided tape to cover the elastic. And with that, I was finished. Anyway, I hope you guys liked my inspired Game of Thrones hair idea today. I know it's not quite as spot on as some of my previous Dany recreations, rather it's an alternative version. Until next time, have fun and keep braiding. Bye!